Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis. As always, here with my colleague, co-host, Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. We're now the second swing of the Sunshine Double here, and my gosh, it didn't take long at all for the top seeds to go down early in Miami. Just to give an example, I mean, all the Indian Wells semifinalists, Steve, they were all gone. They all lost in their opening match. Medvedev, Alcaraz, Runa, Draper, all lost in their opening match. I know it's very different conditions. In Indian Wells, it's dry, the ball will fly. Miami, humid, more heavier. But still, all four Indian Wells semifinalists lose in their opening match, Steve.
Yeah, that's unusual. I mean, it is a tough turnaround, but it's not as if they go from playing on Indian Wells on the weekend and start early in the next week. They don't start to close to the weekend. Friday, usually for the top players. And Medvedev had apparently a bit of a back issue when he lost to Munar. Maybe he can be slightly excused because it was a very odd 2-3 score line. Now, that's not really the way Medvedev usually goes down. Carlos lost to David Goffin, obviously on the heels of his loss to Draper at Indian Wells, and Goffin beat him in three. Goffin played really tremendous tennis, but Carlos was very in and out off the ground. It was a combination that got Goffin across the finish line in that one. But
Steve,
Carlos,
where is this tennis from David Goffin coming from? I mean, because a lot of people think like maybe he's close to retiring or even has retired the last few years. Obviously not. He's playing very, very well, but for him to beat a guy like Carlos Alcaraz, I mean, I don't think anyone saw this type of level that he's been playing at.
no, I agree, but fascinating because before the match, I read these comments, and he had actually beaten Carlos not long after Carlos won his U.S. Open in 2022, which was a bit of a surprise at the time. But he made these comments. The gist of it was Carlos is a great player, and I know I have to play great to beat him, but let's see what happens. And I read those comments that that's not typical of the way he talks. He went in with a very positive attitude and came from a set down and 4-all in the second set to win that match. So that was impressive. Now, you got to take them case by case. The other two you mentioned the Indian Wells semifinalists. Then, of course, Draper, Mensik. He lost to Mensik, the 19-year-old Czech. Listen, that was a tough way to have to start this tournament on the heels of winning a title. Mensik, I mean, when Djokovic was talking about Fonseca and what a star, he said Fonseca is the talk of the tennis world right now, but he threw in Mensik when he was talking about other great young players. He's just a year older than Fonseca, and he's terrific. And so that was a couple of tie breaks.
Yeah,
So
I mean 7-6, 7-6. There's a few points either way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what can you say about that one?
So then we got Medvedev and Runa. Yeah, they also lost in their opening match.
Yeah,
But I like what you said,
Runa
Steve. Like,
lost to. Sorry, David. He lost a really tough one to Riley Opelka.
yeah.
That went right down to the wire in the third. He had 5-4 in the third set tie break and lost it, and that couldn't have been any closer. So again, some of those draws were not easy. You wouldn't have thought that the Goffin draw for Carlos was going to be as tough as it turned out to be, but there you go. That was a remarkable series of results.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier. I was going to say the same thing. In that, it's like you said, it's not now these Masters 1000 events, they extend out a little bit longer than normal, but it's not like you go play a final on a Sunday and your first match is now a Tuesday. These players had a few more extra days to prepare for that. So that's why it makes it even a little bit more surprising, even with the conditions being different.
Yeah,
One
they have to fly. Obviously, they have to make that West Coast trip to Florida. I get it, but they definitely have plenty of days of practice and enough rest leading up to it that usually this kind of thing can be avoided.
Well,
So
the talk of the town still is on João Fonseca, and he played a really fun match against Lerner Tien early on.
yeah,
Fonseca plays Demon Art tonight. We're doing this on Monday night. We're recording this on Monday night. But the Fonseca Tien match, I hope they play 20 times in the next few years because that was a
that was
really
very enjoyable.
entertaining match.
He's the first guy to he's seen that I've seen, and I watched a lot of guys playing against Team where he seems to always have all the time in the world. He's so smooth and he prepares so well. Fonseca is the first guy I've seen to start rushing this guy into mistakes. I was really impressed the way he turned it around after losing a pretty decisive tiebreak in the first set. He played really well the last two. Had a little episode with dizziness, but managed to get through it, then won his next match. And now, as we speak, of course, he's about to play one of the great wily veterans out there, the Australian Alex de Minaur. That'll be a fascinating match.
Yes, tonight. That's going to happen tonight. And for the listeners, thanks for hanging in with us. We're just throwing out all these matches. They're all over the place because there were so many early round upsets. Ben Shelton had a tough loss. He lost to Coleman Wong, who had a wild card, 7-6 in the third. Not the result that Ben was looking for.
No, and he was up. Oh, he had a huge lead in the first set tiebreaker. He actually was even serving with a 3-love lead, double mini break lead, and lost 7 points in a row. And then came back strong and won the second. You thought he was in good shape, and he ended up losing in a third set tiebreak, despite some incredibly animated crowd support. I've never seen it. He must have been pleased by that, and I thought it might be enough to get him across, get him the victory, and get him the triumph. It was not to be. That was a disappointing loss for him, though, because it's a match he should win.
Another disappointing loss, and it's just a bad matchup. And he even referred to it on the Nothing Major pod. Tommy Paul lost to Cerundolo 6-2, 7-6 last night. Head to head, Steve. Cerundolo leads that 5 matches to 2. It's just, It seems like Tommy plays him in a lot of important tournaments, and it's just a struggle. It's just some matchups just, they don't fit your style.
Yeah, it's true. I agree. Some of the other matches were played out a bit differently, more closely contested sets, hanging in the balance. Cerundolo was up 6-2, 4-1 last night in that match. Double break in the second set, was playing out of this world. And it was really very little to do with Tommy, and Cerundolo was just spectacular. But then he tightened up and lost 4 games in a row, and had to eventually won it in a tiebreak after getting a bit tense again in the tiebreak, where he led 4-love early, and it got a little bit tight near the end. So I feel like that was a very, Tommy talked to him afterwards. It looked like he was not angry with himself. He seemed to be saying to Cerundolo, "You were just too good." But it was a good effort from Tommy to get back into the match. But you're right. I think bottom line is it's not a great matchup for him. And in this case, Cerundolo could well have won that match 2-2 if he hadn't have gotten tight.
And when you refer to it on something publicly like that, then it just gets in your head even mentally, and it's like it could get worse. I mean, 5 matches to 2 head to head, not good. But hopefully Tommy can. I'm assuming they're going to play quite a few more times in their career. Hopefully Tommy can turn that around.
But you know what, David? On the heels of, just quickly, in fairness to Cerundolo, on the heels of watching him lose to Carlos in Indian Wells in a very well played match under the lights, he's coming round. He's really finding his best form. He's back to what we saw from him in 23 when he was in the top 20. And I feel like now he's rapidly on his way to the top 10. That he's playing great tennis right now. And
yeah, I don't want to sound like I think it's a horrible loss for Tommy. Cerundolo's plenty talented and plenty good. It's just the 5 matches to 2 with the rankings when you look at.
Right. Oh no,
not ideal.
I understand. I'm just saying I like where he's headed right now. I like where he is. You know, his backhand can sometimes still let him down, and he's sometimes the second serve is a little bit weak. But boy, the forehand is one of the most devastatingly potent forehands in the game right now. And they were showing the miles per hour on it, even 1 mile an hour faster than Fonseca. Nobody thought anybody hit a bigger forehand than he did. So that just and he's hardly missing. You know, up until 4-1 in the second set, he couldn't miss. It was just magical stuff. So I'm going to be watching him very closely because, David, the clay court circuit is around the corner. He's actually probably even a bit better on clay than he is on hard. So
agreed.
I'll have my eyes on him.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's going to be very dangerous on that surface. All right, a couple more men's matches. Then we're going to go over to the women's matches because those were crazy as well. Grigor Dimitrov wins an extremely tight match yesterday, being Sunday, 7-5 in the third over Kring Khachanov. Great match by both guys. Yeah,
it was terrific. You know, and they had a very nice greeting at the net too afterwards. And Khachanov realized he's very sporting. I've seen him accept losses with a lot of equanimity.
And he's lost a lot of tough matches.
He's lost a lot of tough ones. And he has a certain kind of fiery way about him during a match. He can vent. But then when it's over, he's a good loser. And that was a very good win for D'Amico, who served awfully well and throughout the match.
I just love seeing Grigor play at this level. I mean, he's still, I know he's always fighting injuries, right? But he still moves. When he's healthy, he still moves so well. He's so fit. Again, I don't know if anyone say he could pop through and win a slam, and that's going to be unfortunate because he may wind up having an amazing career, Steve, without ever having won a slam. But his level at this stage of his career, it's so fun to see Grigor play like this.
No, it is. It's a joy to watch him. He's going to play Nakashima next, which would be interesting because Nakashima knocked off Goffin after Goffin had beaten Carlos, and then it's going to be Casper Ruud playing against Cerundolo. So that'll be interesting to see who comes out in that quarter. And then the other thing on that half, David, is that we've got Djokovic, who's come off a couple of impressive wins, great first sets, not as good in the second sets, but winning in the old Djokovic mode, coming through brilliantly and giving away nothing in the tie breaks, 2-7-1 tie breaks. He's playing well, and he'll play Musetti. So I think things are shaping up really well. We could we that'll be tomorrow, and as will Monfils and Korda. Can't wait to see that because Monfils just beat Korda not many weeks ago, and he's on another great one. He won another match over Munar. He beat Munar, who had beaten Medvedev, and that one went down to the wire too. It was another one of those exhilarating Monfils moments that we've seen so many of this entire year.
Sebi Korda, and we got right now they're playing in the third set is Francis Tiafoe versus Arthur Fils in a very entertaining match. They're in a third set, so we still have France alive, but a little bit disappointing. Taylor's still alive too, but it doesn't seem like the Americans have kind of taken that momentum that they had late last year, and it's kind of the consistency isn't there with all those guys yet. We wish it was. It's a little bit of a roller coaster right now. But that being said, Sebi Korda had a good win yesterday, beating Stefanos
He
Tsitsipas.
did.
Sebi's toughest opponent, we've said this a number of times, Steve, is just injuries. He just can't
Yeah,
stay
right.
healthy long enough.
He looks
Um,
healthy now. He looks healthy now, David. To get to your point, I agree. The
can he
injury.
get in that mix, Steve? Can he get in that mix with Taylor
Well,
and
if
Tommy?
if his body allows him, but we haven't seen a sustained period of 6 months, 8 months, no injuries. Maybe this is it right now. That was impressive because backhand to backhand, that was the classic case of the great two-hander, one of the better two-handers in tennis, coming up, going cross-court into the one-hander of Tsitsipas. He definitely got the better of him there. But he had served for the first set, didn't win it there, took it in a tiebreak, built a big lead up in the second, and closed him out in straight. That's a nice win for him. So we'll see if that can carry him past Monfils this time. I think it's going to be another exceedingly close encounter.
All right, let's go out to the women's side. And again, I don't even know where it's all over the place because there's been so many upsets and so many good matches. I guess we could start with the run Emma Raducanu's having. She beats Emma Navarro, and again, we talked about this previously, Steve. Emma Navarro, she keeps putting herself in these deficits deep in matches, and she's been able to come out of most of them. She wasn't able to come out of it against Emma Raducanu. Raducanu continues rolling. She just beat Amanda Anisimova soundly today, who beat
Yeah,
Mira Andreeva late
right.
last night.
Yeah, fascinating day to day to see what's happening with the women. Just to get back to the Navarro match that you mentioned with Emma, the two Emmas, but with Raducanu. That was suspenseful tennis at its best because here's what happened. You had Raducanu up a set and she's won the first set, but then back comes it was a complete turnaround because Navarro takes the second 6-2, goes up 3-1 in the third. So she's in that stage winning. Yeah, she's 9 of the last 11 games with a break point for 4-1 to break the match open. Doesn't convert it. Back comes Raducanu to lead 5-3 and serve for the match. Once more, Emma does one of her almost great escape acts at Navarro to take a 6-5 lead and serve for the match. Can't close it out and loses to Raducanu in a third set tiebreak. What a battle that was. And that may end up being one of the most important matches of the year for Raducanu because you've mentioned what's happened since now. Now, a good win over Anisimova. So she's had 2 big wins over Americans. And she came into this tournament 60 in the world. And now her ranking is going to go way up after this tournament. And it's going to encourage her as she starts heading into the clay court season and gets back to Wimbledon. And there'll be a lot of excitement by Wimbledon in what looks like a real revival for this woman who won the U.S. Open a couple of years ago so convincingly, came out of the qualifying and won, didn't lose a set the whole tournament, qualifying or main draw. She's had her ups and downs since, but she's playing awfully well right now.
She is still some questions around the coaching circle around her because
Right.
still
But
hasn't been stable, but she's playing good ball now. So another
yeah,
young American.
ball now, and this is the kind of tournament. Whatever happens to her from this point on, as we speak, she's had a tremendous tournament, and I think it will give her a lot of confidence going into the clay court season and then on to the grass. And then who knows where she will be by the time she gets back to the Open. I mean, the way she's playing now, I wouldn't be shocked to see her at the Open be a seed.
Two young Americans I just wanted to mention quickly. McCartney Kessler, she lost to Raducanu, but she makes the third round. Also, Ashlyn Kruger, Steve, she beat Elena Rybakina 6-4, 2-6, 6-4. That's a good win. I mean, those are good results for a couple of young Americans right there. Be
Yeah.
interesting to see how they do. I don't know how well they're going to do on the clay, but I'm almost more interested to see how they do in the summer hard court season. That's probably what they're most comfortable playing on.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. No, the hard court season, that's when they will thrive, and they'll be they'll be looking forward to to all those tournaments, and to the Cincinnati's and Canadas, and then of course the U.S. Open.
And we'll end with Coco Gauff. It's been a little roller coaster for Coco too. I mean, my gosh, she beats Sophia Kenin, Steve, 6-0, 6-0. She then played Maria Sakkari. Sakkari, I think, is now out of the top 50, Steve, which is
Yeah,
incredible. She
yeah,
beats Sakkari. She beats her in straight sets, actually. Coco did lose today to Magna Linette. I think it was straight sets. I think she
it
lost
was. It
four
was.
six four.
Yeah, 4-4. She had her. Had her chances in the second. Had an early 2-love lead, and then came from a breakdown at 2-3 to lead 4-3 on serve. Never won another game. Forehand was an issue again today, and I think 12 double faults. So, yeah,
12 double faults.
it
Killing
was a
me.
shaky performance from Coco, no doubt about it. And Lynette, look, she's a wily veteran. She's 34 in the world. She's a 33-year-old from Poland, ranked 34 in the world, and you wouldn't expect. I mean, and she played really cagey tennis, David. She did. She hugs the baseline. She makes you beat her. But in many ways today, Coco beat herself.
Yeah, she hasn't made a quarterfinal since Australia. So again, she finished the year after that disappointing U.S. Open. She got back on track, had a great end of the year, made the quarters of Australia, and it's just been up and down since then. Madison Keys, Steve, I'm not that worried about this. She had a bad loss. She lost early. I'm not worried about Maddie. What happened with her in Australia is such an extraordinary event for her career. Think she's still absorbing and adjusting to what happened in Australia. This early round loss does not bother me one bit. I think she's still playing at a high level. Even when she got whacked by Sabalenka in Indian Wells, she was okay till that point. She made the semis. I'm
Yeah,
not worried about Madison Keys right now.
no, I'm not either. The girl that beat her, Alexandra Ela from the
Yep.
Philippines, is a 19-year-old, and she trains at Rafa's Academy.
Yep.
She was really exuberant, and I think she caught her off guard. I mean, she really was. It looked to me like she was sort of in the zone that day, and then Maddie was really having trouble locating her serve properly. She was getting broken all over the place. That surprised me the most, given what a great first serve she has. But I agree with you. I don't think I think it should be fine. I think she'll get going again on the clay. There's so many tournaments ahead of her.
Yeah.
It was almost inevitable that post Australia there would be a few letdowns. And
Yeah.
as you say, Indian Wells, even though she only won one game off Sabalenka, that was a semifinal. She
Right.
did well to make the
Right.
semifinals. I agree with you. I'm not worried, and she will come round again. And when the majors come too, she may be looking forward to majors in a way she never was before, because having finally collected one, she believes she can do it.
Yeah, solid point right there. I think Coleman Wong, you mentioned Maddie's opponent training at Rafa's Academy. I think Coleman Wong also trained at Rafa's Academy
Yeah.
too. There's some good young talent there. Obviously, no doubt those playing at Rafa's Academy. I'm sure they got some ballers down there. Well, I mean, this was again for the listeners. Kind of appreciate you hanging in there. It was just all over the place because there were so many matches and so many upsets. Um, it'll be interesting later rounds. You may not have as many heavyweights versus heavyweights just because of the number of upsets, but uh, nonetheless, it'll be an intriguing rest of the tournament, Steve.
Yeah, it will. It's sort of hard to gauge. I'm one. You've got Zverev who beat Thompson today. He was down 4-1 early and then turned it around confidently and straight.
He needs a good result, Steve.
He's looking to kickstart his season. Novak is trying to really ignite his season. There's a lot of interest, and then all the players that we mentioned, the Cordas and Monfils, there's so many guys playing well right now. I mean, I think, as was the case at Indian Wells, there's been some really fantastic tennis being played, and I can't imagine we're not going to end this tournament on a high in one way or another.
Yeah, it was totally unexpected these first few days and what all the flurry of activity with upsets and top players going down. I know you're looking up at your screen now because
Yeah,
you're probably
I
watching
help
TV.
but look up because now Fees has got a 5-2 lead in the third. Only one break. Tiafo serving at 2-5, 30 all, but nice recovery thus far from Fees in the final set.
And I expect those two to play a number of times in the future as well.
Oh,
So,
they will. They will.
Steve, we'll do a wrap up with this after the tournament's over, and we'll go back. We'll see if the second week is as crazy as the first few days of this tournament has been.
Yeah, and let's hope it. They were, it's been very hot. Today was very hot up there in the 80s. Courier was talking about how it was a beach day versus a tennis player's day, and I hope as we conclude the tournament, those last 4 or 5 days, when we get down to the semis and finals for the men and women, I hope maybe the temperature might dip back down in the 70s because there's going to be a lot of daytime tennis being played in that period.
Yeah, well said, Steve. Thank you again, as always, for your time. This was fun. This was a crazy past few days.
It was, David. Yeah, but it's been very enjoyable. Thanks for having me on.